and welcome to a brand new edition of the Drizzle Wrestling Show. We've got a great show ahead of us. We got lots of stuff to talk about. So we're going to talk first and foremost about what was reported today. So, Charlie Caruso, formerly announcer for WWE and interviewer, has officially took a job with ESPN, so she is no longer with the company. So she's moved on to ESPN, so they're apparently working on training other people to do backstage interviews. I mean, they've got other people involved, honestly, who can take her job at this point. So that's not really that big of a deal. Um, Monday Night Raw's ratings were the worst since 1996. I believe it was August 2nd or 3rd of that year when the ratings were really bad. But again, I keep pressing this as a fan. If Corbin was not the general manager, and if you got somebody in charge, put Kurt Angle back in charge. I mean, your ratings were not terrible when he was around. I mean, what about Matt Hardy, for example? I mean, he was interested in doing backstage stuff. Why not put him in charge? He could do a decent job. Um, Shane McMahon, honestly, could come back and do something, or Stephanie, or Triple H at this point. I mean, something has to be done with Monday Night Raw because the ratings are not very good. And the only positive thing about Monday Night Raw is they're building the talent that needs to be built, the way that it should be booked. I mean, we're finally seeing Bobby Lashley, compete more, and Bobby Roode and Authors of Pain, and the Revival and the Ascension, and the tag team division honestly is getting much better. Plus the B team is there as well. So I mean, you have a great decent amount of tag teams in the division. I mean, plus with Bobby Roode and Chad Gable, I mean, that's another tag team you have right there. So why not focus on that and build it? Leo Rush has been doing a really good job, honestly, with promos for Lashley, and I think that that's gone fairly well. Um, and they're building that rivalry towards the Super Showdown. The tag team match between Owens and Elias and Cena and Lashley. Unfortunately, we haven't even seen Cena yet, so I don't really know what's going on with that situation. Uh, the Ronda Rousey, in the Riot Squad thing is actually not a bad thing for Raw. I think that it's actually building your women's division. And then you throw the Bellas in there, and it kind of, makes the situation a little bit more interesting. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like the fact that Strowman is being pushed, and McIntyre and Ziggler. They deserve it. I mean, they've worked their asses off for years, so I believe that that's a great idea for them. To be pushed. Um, I really enjoy the rivalry, honestly, that we're seeing between Reigns and Strowman. I think that we're getting somewhere with that. So the segment between where Shawn Michaels is in the ring on Monday Night Raw, and he basically, talking about his history with the Undertaker, and lights go out, bam, Kane comes out, and just choke slams him. Um, Triple H, comes out to try to fight off, and Undertaker shows up, and then they both choke slam. Triple H and Shawn Michaels get choke slammed by the Brothers of Destruction. So I think that from the rumors that are going around, we are going to eventually see that match between Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker at Survivor Series. And now, again, we're not going to be getting the Shawn Michaels from 5, 6 years ago. That's where we need to understand here. He is much older now, so he can't really do like the jumping off the ropes and the weird dives that he used to do from the ropes and stuff, because he's not capable of doing that anymore. So we shouldn't have high hopes, I guess, is what I'm saying, for Shawn Michaels going forward from here. if he does want to wrestle, because they're talking about him wrestling at least 5 matches this year. That's what I'm. That's what I've been looking into, that's what they've been saying basically. Um, so let's talk about SmackDown a little bit. So I think the rivalry that's happening between Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, I think, are really defining the women's division, honestly, on SmackDown. I think Paige is doing a great job as general manager. Um, the rivalry between AJ and Samoa Joe, I think, has been pretty decent for SmackDown. Um, and Randy Orton is just becoming sickening, honestly, in most of his matches now because he finds new ways of punishing people. Like what he did to Ty Dillinger on Tuesday was pretty wicked when he bent his finger back and almost broke it. That was pretty weird, honestly. I've never seen him ever do anything like that before. So what I think is going to happen, honestly, is I think Mysterio is going to come back and we're going to get a feud between him and Mysterio. I've heard nothing about Jeff Hardy coming back yet. I have no idea what's going on with that. We haven't really seen Nakamura in a while either. That's kind of odd too. Overall, I would say SmackDown was a decent show. I would give it at least a 7.5, and I would give Raw at least a 7. I think that they're trying to get things back on track. Again, you just need to have the right people in charge, and I think that that's what Raw's problem is they don't have the right people in charge. I mean, I would even be okay with Paul Heyman being his general manager on Raw at this point. I mean, something has to happen at this point for Raw. So, okay, so going forward, we're going to talk a little bit about what the plans are for SmackDown 1000. So, the plan right now is to have Evolution reunite on the show in a segment. I think that that's a wonderful idea. That's awesome, actually. I think that's going to go over really well. Then you have Edge coming to do a speech. There's rumors about The Rock coming back. They're working out something with a deal with him to come back. I mean, it is his show, for God's sakes. It was named after him and his character. That would make a total sense. So then you have 3 people from the women's division, back in the day. So you have Vicky Guerrero, you have Tori Wilson, Michelle McCool coming out basically and doing a segment, I think. That's what I'm hearing. Then the Cruiserweight division, you're going to have somebody back who built the Cruiserweight division, in my opinion. And he was a former world champion, intercontinental champion, U.S. champion, tag team champion. Held like every single belt practically on SmackDown, and that is Rey Mysterio. He's going to be there. So, and Teddy Long has announced that he's going to be there. So he was a big part of SmackDown. He was a general manager like 3 times. So I think that SmackDown 1000 is going to be a freaking amazing show. A little disappointed that Rob Van Dam is not going to be there because he was a big part of SmackDown too. But they tried working out, I guess, some type of a deal and nothing happened with it, apparently. So, anyways, we'll move on from that. SmackDown 1000 should be really interesting. Oh yeah, The Undertaker announced he's going to be there too. So, that was recently on his Instagram. So, so we're going to move on from that, and we're going to talk about Super Showdown for a little bit, and what the rumor killers are. So I'm hearing from multiple sources on like ringside.com and a bunch of other websites right now and Wrestling Observer that there are no plans for any titles to change at Super Showdown. I'm also hearing rumors that the Big Show might be showing up. Booker T, Jerry the King Lawler, There was even a rumor going around that Stone Cold Steve Austin was supposed to be going there and showing up on that show, and possibly Survivor Series too. They were talking about him either doing like commentary or coming in and actually interfering in a match or something like that. Again, that's just a rumor. I don't know if that's really what's happening or not, but I would not be surprised if the Big Show didn't show up, because he's had rivalries for years in his career with The Undertaker, Kane, and Shawn Michaels. So that would not, be something that would not surprise me at this point. So it's also been reported that Paul Heyman wants, when he comes back, his own faction. So he wants superstars to build his own faction and then basically to have a rivalry with the Shield. So I'm not totally against that at this point in time, because I feel like the Shield needs more competition on pay-per-views. I mean, yes, Strowman, Ziggler, and McIntyre are decent opponents for them, but if Paul Heyman was to get involved and bring in like a Kevin Owens, and like a Lashley, and then like Elias or somebody like that, yeah, that would work totally, honestly. Or maybe a Bobby Roode or somebody like that. I mean, yeah, that would actually be pretty interesting, and I would go for it. Um, so the plan, I guess, for Survivor Series right now, from what I'm hearing, is Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels is going to be on the card, and then Team Corbin versus Team Angle for Raw, and then some type of a match on SmackDown that would involve Team AJ versus Team Joe. And then I guess Team Charlotte versus Team Becky. I think that's the other thing that they're talking about. So there's all this crazy stuff going on right now, that are being pitched. And I think that's why they were all meeting together, Paige and the Raw people, I guess. So Cody Rhodes recently did an interview where he said that January 1st of 2019 he will be a free agent, and the Young Bucks will also be free agents. Now they said that Ring of Honor is their primary love, their main company, but they are open to showing up on WWE programming and causing havoc basically on SmackDown or Raw or NXT. So, what is my opinion of that? Go for it. Because Raw, SmackDown would be shaken up totally, and that would definitely bring in a whole new era in wrestling, and I think that we need that right now. Yeah, Cody Rhodes is a double champion right now anyway, so I mean, why not? Do it, man. You've been successful on the indie scene. You've done your thing. Come back to the WWE and prove them wrong. Prove them wrong and say you should have never let me go, because he's already done that. So, okay, so we're gonna move on from that to Impact Wrestling, where we're building up Bound for Glory, and it looks like a pretty awesome show at this point. So you have the main event of Austin Aries versus Johnny Impact. You also have OVE versus the Lucha Bros and Brian Cage. That should be a awesome match in my opinion. Then you have the LAX versus the OGs. That should be a decent match. Then you have Taya Valkyrie, the Lucha Queen herself, daughter Lucha Queen, versus Tessa Blanchard, which I think should be really interesting. Then there's some rumors going around that we could get a tag team match between Su Yung and the Undead Bridesmaid versus Allie and Kira Hogan, which could be an interesting match. I mean, they've already done that, but I still think that they could make it like maybe a hardcore match or something like that. You know, maybe spice it up a little bit. I've been pretty impressed, honestly, with the Knockouts division. I think that they've really started building it up a little bit. I want to see Rosemary though. I don't know what they're doing with that. Like, why is she not on TV? I don't get that. So, um, and Eli Drake, honestly, he's been doing some good things in Impact as well. So, they're starting to get their ratings back. They're starting to get their storylines together, and I think it's going to be a great show. So, where am I at now? Lucha Underground, I think the shows lately have been really decent. I really enjoy the commentary. I love it. I mean, it's really good, honestly. Um, and I'm liking that they're building their company from the ground up and adding a little bit of spice to it. I mean, the title matches are very creative and long, and I think that they're doing wonderful things. Um, where am I at here now? Do, 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 do. Okay, the Mae Young Classic I think has really defined WWE programming. I really enjoyed it so far. I think that they're doing great things, honestly. The rivalries are pretty good. Matches are outstanding at this point. Um, I like that they're building international talent into this tournament, and they're doing wonderful things with it. And I can't wait for the ending result. I think it's going to be great. So um, NXT I think is getting really good too. Plus you have Punishment Martinez coming in soon, so that's going to help the division out a little bit too. Um, and the women's division in NXT I think is pretty decent. They've got great talent, and they're building it from the ground up. And really looking forward to what Aleister Black is going to do now that he's back. Um, So we've got lots of good things happening, and we're gonna look forward to Super Showdown, Evolution, and then right after that you have Survivor Series, which is always a great pay per view around that time. Then you got Bound for Glory coming up. You've got pay per views for Ring of Honor. Speaking of Ring of Honor, they're doing wonderful things with their women's division. I've been really impressed with the shows lately. Jay Lethal is just an outstanding wrestler. He's good at what he does, and the tag team division is kick ass. I mean, I can't really describe it any more than that. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to what wrestling is going to be bringing us in 2019. I think that all this sounds great. Plus, we get Shawn Michaels in a few more matches in his career. The rivalry with Undertaker is going to go into Survivor Series. I think that that's great going forward. Um, what was I going to say? I do think they need to push some of the NXT talent a little bit more, like EC3, Velveteen Dream. Aleister Black needs to be pushed a little bit more. Um, Lars Sullivan, for example. Ricochet is a great talent. Adam Cole. I mean, the Undisputed Era, for God's sakes. All those guys are freaking amazing talent. They can do anything, honestly, in the ring. Pete Dunne is a great talent for them. I mean, NXT is just a great brand at this point. They've got lots of good things going on there. Um, Vince apparently is buying up the rights to all the WCW stuff so that none of the other companies in the world can do like themed pay-per-views like WCW used to do. Apparently, that's what's going on. So my issue with that is, okay, why wouldn't you just bring back Halloween Havoc and Fall Brawl and some of the other stuff that was popular for WCW? Like I said in my last video on the wrestling show, why don't you just bring back WCW, have Shane McMahon run it, and then on NXT and the Cruiserweight division just goes there, and then you focus on that, and then you build a women's division there. And that's what my concern is, because it's like you have this opportunity to do the right thing for all the wrestling fans who want WCW to be back, and you're not doing that, Vince. And I as a fan, I'm just not understanding, why do you want to do that, buy the rights to all this stuff, and then not create the pay-per-views that you should do for the fans? That's why Triple H should be in charge of the company. That's what I don't get. Like, walk away, man. You're 85 years old at this point. Like, walk away, man. That's all I'm saying as a fan. Like, the time now for Shane to be involved and Vince goes his way and Stephanie and Triple H, like I would just rather have Stephanie, Triple H, and Shane be in charge and having you just retire and going away at this point. Like I don't understand why you can't just let things be the way that they should be for the fans. The other thing I wanted to report real fast was some major changes will be happening to SmackDown Live and Raw in 2019, such as stage production, general managers, writers, staff, and talent. So apparently they're going to have another draft where they're going to be drafting talent back and forth. Call ups from NXT, 205 Live as well. And it also sounds like they're going to be introducing some new title belts and bringing some belts back from the Attitude Era in the early 90s. So one belt that they were talking about was the European Championship, and I'm a full go with that. Go ahead with that. I enjoyed those matches anyways when I used to watch them. The Hardcore Championship could be coming back, folks, which means a 24-hour title defense. So that means anybody can challenge for that title belt. And I always enjoyed those segments on Raw and SmackDown when they had the hardcore title belt, being defended, because we had lots of chaotic, crazy shit happening, and I always enjoyed it, man. I mean, people got thrown through tables. I mean, hit in the head with trash cans. I mean, people were fighting outdoors in the parking lot. In restaurants. I mean, it was just a crazy segment on the show, and I always enjoyed it. And I thought to myself, I'm like, why would you just take it away when people love it so much? So I think that would be wonderful for SmackDown if they brought it back. I mean, you have lots of great talent there who can honestly be a great hardcore champion. I mean, I can't think of anybody offhand right now, but I mean, there's people who obviously want it back, so why not just do it? There's also been rumors going around that there could be a women's tag team division and tag team belts being introduced at Evolution. That was also reported as well. So my opinion on that is if you do it correctly and build that with the right people involved, it could be successful, absolutely. But you have to have somebody be in charge of that division who is a former diva or former champion who would run it the right way. So that's just my opinion on that. But what do you guys think about some of these announcements, like the new championships, new staff, new general managers? SmackDown could be going back to the old set, which I think is great, and maybe some pyro, maybe some fireworks too. Let's go with the fireworks again. So we're gonna stop it here. I've been blabbing on, but there's just been so much going on that I had to report it. And the Dean Ambrose heel thing. Okay, the Dean Ambrose heel turn thing. Apparently this has been in the works since last year before he got hurt. So they're just kind of teasing it, I guess, for right now, but it sounds like towards WrestleMania that he might actually turn on his Shield friends here. I think that they should do that, in my opinion. I think Dean should be a heel. He should go after the Intercontinental Championship, have a rivalry with Seth. I think that would be great for Raw. That would even benefit the ratings, I think, make it a little bit better at this point. So I'll get out of your hair. I just wanted to report this stuff, and I do this because I love wrestling, guys. I love it with all my heart.